I'm Stephanie Rozzo. Welcome to a Nature Sketch Crate step-by-step Mexican Marigold instructional video. In this video I'll be showing you how to paint the Mexican Marigold by using Nature Sketch Crate step-by-step painting instructions. Don't forget to help this tiny business by clicking the like button, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and checking out naturesketchcrate.com to shop for future crates. First, collect all your materials and make sure they're ready to go. Remember, this is just a sketch. Take your time, relax, have fun, and don't get too caught up if you think you might have made a mistake. Let's get started. Step 1, transfer the image to the watercolor paper. So you want to tape the transfer image to the back of the watercolor paper. And if you want to transfer the hole punch lines, make sure you don't cover them up. You don't want to cover up any lines that you plan to transfer. Instead, you could put the tape on the side. Then take your graphite transfer paper, dark side down, light side up, place it on top of your watercolor paper, and then just gently press that flat. Pick any place to start and just trace over the line, and it doesn't need to be exact. This is just a sketch. Trace over a couple if you like, just a few, just to make sure it's actually transferring, so you have your transfer paper the right way and that you're pressing hard enough. You will want to see the transfer lines at the end so you can redraw them. So go ahead and go throughout and trace over all of those lines. You can put on a podcast, some music, maybe an audio book, maybe sit out in nature. It's meant to be a relaxing, meditative exercise. So take your time, relax, and transfer the lines by tracing them. You don't have to finish this all at once. You can transfer a few lines, and then if you get interrupted or need to do something else, you can go ahead and just set it to the side and come back to it later. So once you think you have all the lines transferred, go ahead and hold your image down in one spot, flip it up, and flip up the transfer paper. And then just using your eye, look at the image from top to bottom as you flip it up and down like a flip book to see if you've missed any lines. And I always miss a few, so this really helps me out. You can always draw them in later as well, or leave them out altogether. It's up to you. Once you have all the lines transferred, go ahead and transfer the common name. Since my pencil tip is a little smaller than the text, I always trace the inside, so on the black, kind of creating an outline of those letters. And then just draw right over the scientific name to transfer it. Once you have all the lines transferred, go ahead and remove the graphite transfer paper. You can use this over and over, so save it for future use, or give it to a friend to use. And then remove the tape from the back of the watercolor paper. Remove the tape from the transfer image, and if it doesn't have too much paper on it, you can reuse it again. If not, then maybe compost it. And save your transfer image to protect your image while you're painting if you need it. Then take your kneaded eraser, knead it into a light gray spot, and remove any unwanted marks or lighten any unwanted marks. So sometimes the graphite transfer paper leaves a little bit of smudges on the outside there, so I like to kind of remove those a bit. This is just a sketch, so it doesn't need to be perfect, so leaving those little bit behind is just fine. And you can also, if you need to, lighten marks by taking a light gray spot and just dabbing it right over parts of the image to pick up some of that. When you're done erasing, you're ready to move on to step 2. Step 2, paint in the marigold yellow. So first you want to mix the marigold yellow by taking 2 drops of the 25H Hansa yellow medium. Make sure to shake up the paint before using it so that all the paint pigment is well mixed. Sometimes it likes to settle on the sides or the bottom. 1, 2. Ensures you have the full concentration of color that you're using in your palette. Take your brush, add a little bit of water by squeezing the barrel if you have a water brush. If you have a regular paintbrush, just go ahead and add a little bit of water from whatever vessel you're using to hold your water in. And add that into the palette. Dab it off on your towel and test it out. Looks good because we didn't mix any other colors in there. And take a little bit to the side. Dab it on your towel and test it out. It's a little light, a little lighter than we want it to be. So add a little bit more by picking up a little bit with your brush, bringing it over to this color we're adding to the side. And when I refer to a wet light color, it's light because we've added water to it in our palette, so there's less pigment in it, less paint pigment. Still a little light. I'm going to pick up a little bit more, add it in, and test it out one more time. Now I feel it's too dark, so I'm going to add a little bit of water. So sometimes take a little trial and error. I think that looks good. I'll put it next to this one so you can see that it's a little bit darker. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. And pick up a little bit more on my brush, dab it on my towel, and then I'm going to apply it to my painting. I'm just going to apply it to the entire flower like a marker or crayon, just taking my brush from one side to the other. If you end up with any lines from your watercolor settling in a weird way, that's fine. It's not going to make a difference. First of all, this is just a sketch, and second of all, we'll put a couple more layers over this, and it won't be very noticeable. And I like to work top to bottom and left to right so that I don't smudge anything with my hand, since I'm right-handed. See, I'm just adding the color. Whenever I need more, I'll pick up a little bit more. Otherwise, it's much like using a crayon or a marker. I'm not worrying about staying in these tiny lines too much. This is just a sketch, and the paint that falls outside of the lines just adds to that fun, sketchy look. Clean off your brush, let this dry, and move on to step 3. Step 3, paint in marigold yellow green. So mix the marigold yellow green. Take 10 drops of 25H Hansa yellow medium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One drop of the 10H Venetian brown. 1. And 1 drop of the 6H phthalo green. Go ahead and mix that up like we did before, adding just a little bit of water in your palette. Dab it off on your towel and test it out on your test paper. Take a little bit of water to the side. Need a little bit more pigment than that for sure. Dab it off on your towel and then check it out on your paper. Okay, well, a little bit more pigment still. Dab it on the towel and check it out. I like that color. I picked up a little bit more, dabbed it on my towel, and I'm just gonna apply it to the lower part of the plant here. And I'll just apply it to the entire space, just like we did when we had applied the yellow to the whole area as well. And I did make sure that this was dry by dabbing my finger on it, and you don't want to rub your finger like this while it's wet, so make sure you use a dabbing motion instead. And just go throughout and add all this color. If you need a finer tip on your brush, just take it on your towel and just kind of roll it gently, and that'll help get that little fine tip. But again, it's okay if any paint falls outside of the lines. Just makes the painting more unique to you. I'm just using little strokes, create little lines into those smaller spaces. And pick up more paint whenever you need it. When you've added all of the marigold yellow green, go ahead and clean off your brush, let this dry, and move on to step 4. Step 4, paint in marigold orange. So mix the marigold orange. Take 7 drops of 25H Hansa Yellow Medium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 drop of 15H Permanent Red. Mix that up. Adding just a little bit of water. Dab it off on your towel and test it out. Looks like it's the right color. I'm going to clean off my brush a little bit, pick up some more, take it to the side and add a bunch of water to it. A little bit of that pigment's blending in since I touched my brush over here, but most of it's staying here. Dab off my brush on my towel, check it out on my paper, and that looks like the right color. Going to pick up some more, dab it off on my towel, and then start at the bottom. I'm creating a gradient by letting the paint pigment run out of my brush naturally. And it's doing a pretty good job running out on its own. As you can see, it's getting lighter as I continue to paint because there isn't any paint pigment in there. If you had a lot of color to start with in your brush and you get to about this point and it's not getting lighter, creating a gradient at all, just dab your brush off onto your towel to get rid of a little bit of that paint color and then continue. And if you need to do it again when you get about here, just dab your brush off again and continue to the top. And you'll see a nice gradual gradient that way as well. When you've added that marigold orange, go ahead and let this dry and move on to step 5. Step 5, paint in marigold orange and deep green. And again, you can check to make sure this is dry by just kind of dabbing your finger over it. So paint in that marigold orange. You want that darker, deeper color. Adding a little bit more water. Dabbing it off on my towel and testing it out. Looks good. Picked up a little bit more, dabbed it off on my towel, and then I'll apply it to each of these petals or florets, and just preserve some of that area on the outside, this yellow area here, by starting in the center and the bottom towards the center of the flower head, and then kind of moving out towards the edges. And you can paint these in by either using step 5's image or the final reference image for placement. And it doesn't need to be exactly like this, just in the same general areas. So go ahead and go throughout and add the paint to those petals. When you have all of the marigold orange added, go ahead and clean up your brush and then mix the marigold deep green. So take 10 drops of the Hansa yellow medium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2 drops of the Venetian brown. 1, 2. 1 drop of the phthalo green. 1. Go ahead and mix that up, adding just a little bit of water from your brush, and test it out. Should have dabbed it on my towel first because there's a lot on there, but it's okay. And then pick up a little bit more, take it to the side, and add a little bit of water to it. Test that out on your paper. It's a bit light. I'm going to pick up a bunch more of this and add it in. Just a little too much water. So I pick up a little bit of that, dab it off on my towel, and then I'm going to test it out again. That looks like the right color. So I will go ahead and pick up a little more, dab it off, kind of roll my tip, and start adding it to my painting. And I'm going to add it to the same general areas. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. And you can refer to your final reference image or step 5's image for placement of this color. It's getting a little lighter for some reason. That might just a little bit more that pigment to it. Testing that again, and that's fine too. Do that if you need to. Maybe that's a lot darker, it looks better. When you've added all of that deep green color to the areas you want to add it to, go ahead and clean off your brush. Let this dry and move on to step 6. Step 6, paint in marigold brown. So go ahead and first mix the marigold brown. Take 2 drops of the Hansa yellow medium. 1, 2. And 1 drop of the 21H sepia. 1. Mix that up. Dab it off on your towel and test it out on your paper. don't have a lot of space left, but I have a little bit, enough. And then pick some up again and add a little bit of water. Maybe that was a little too much water. Adding more pigment. Dabbing it off on my towel and finding a white spot. Checking out that color again. A little darker. I'm gonna mix it in the middle here. Kind of a color in between the two. I'm gonna pull it to the side there. That looks good. Test it one more time. Sure, that works. So then I'm going to take it and just add it to the center of the flower in a few spaces like you see in your final reference image and in your image in 6A. Just a few darker spaces here, and then also add it to the center of the bud here. When you've added it to both the flower head and the bud, go ahead and clean off your brush. Let it finish drying and move on to step 7. Step 7, add ink lines. So go ahead and use the smallest tipped micron, the black 005 micron, to redraw the lines you transferred in the first step. And you can refer to that transfer image, your final reference image, or 7A for placement of those lines. You can also redefine some lines if you need to, if paint landed on the outside of those lines you transferred, or you can leave it just as is too. The paint can stay on the outside of those lines. So again, take your time, relax, and redraw those lines. Next, add the 01 black micron lines, just a slightly thicker tip. And you want to use it to thicken some of the inner and outer flower headlines on the bottom left, and to thicken the green plant parts here, except for the back leaves or leaflets. As you see in 7A and the final reference image provided. So lastly, I'm going to use the 08 black micron as the thickest tip to fill in the common name and thicken some lines throughout. So sparingly throughout the flower head, as you see in your final reference image and 7B's image. And then in the bud, the main flower stem here, some of these forwardmost leaves, and to underline these forwardmost leaves. And be careful, because this pen does tend to smudge while it's still wet, so make sure not to run your hand over it right after you draw a line. Now I'm done, and as you can see, the final image is a little different from the final reference image, and you'll find that each image will turn out just a little different based on how your paint and equipment is performing and how you're feeling that particular day. I think this is wonderful because every time you get a unique painting. Thanks for joining me. If you like this video, please click the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and check out naturesketchcreek.com to shop for future crates. I hope you had fun and had a chance to relax a little. Next, here's some options what to do with this painting. You can punch holes in it and add it to your sketchbook. You can frame it, gift it, send it in the mail as a postcard. Also, make sure to share it on our Facebook fan art page. We'd love to see it. And hashtag NatureCrateArt on social media so that we can share it.